of this bill. It's critical that we get our regulatory framework right, and this has been quite a process, a very complex bill, and we have appreciated the input from many quarters, particularly from the stakeholders who have been very much part of this whole process of developing the legislation. In fact, I would think that today there'd be people out there in the marketplace who would be celebrating the passing of this bill. One of the, balances we had to find was where to regulate and where not to. Whenever we create regulations to protect consumers, the consequence is that we constrain providers. We've worked hard listening to the consumers and also listening to the financial service providers to get the balance right between consumer protection and professional efficiency. However, what needs to be said is that the confidence of this legislation that it will bring to consumers is important. And in fact, many submitters welcome the compliance this legislation will bring because it will attest and support their aspiration of professional soundness as an industry. In regard to finding this balance, in regard to between flexibility and constraint, Mr. Speaker, we know that both the Financial Advisors Act and the Financial Service Providers Act have been made more flexible by adding a number of regulation-making powers. It sounds slightly oxymoronish, doesn't it? The Securities Commission can now provide limited exemptions from financial advisor obligations. The Commission is not expected to consider exemptions for every individual advisor who does not consider him or herself to be the true target of the regime. The Commission is expected to focus on exemptions for classes of persons for whom the cost of compliance with certain obligations would be unreasonable or unjustified. These mechanisms are important to ensure that the regime can adapt with the market and will impose obligations that are proportionate to the risks created by different services. Mr. Speaker, just as I close, Mr. Cheval talked about the single economic market, and regard to that, there is a lot of work taking place by our Commerce Minister, Simon Power, to work with his Australian counterparts to make progress on 27 regulatory outcomes identified by the two leaders, Prime Minister John Key and Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, in a joint statement in August last year. A Trans-Tasman Outcomes Implementation Group, co-chaired by a senior official in the Australian Treasury and our Ministry of Economic Development, has been working to advance outcomes identified by the two Prime Ministers. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that this is good watershed legislation that is going to make a difference for the financial advisor sector and industry, but also make a huge difference for confidence with investors and savers in our country, and it's a pleasure to be able to support this bill. Thank you.